Alex and Maria always dreamed of a tour of Europe. They saved money for a long time. They planned every day, looking at a map on their table. Finally, the day came. Their old car was full of bags and excitement. They drove happily from Romania towards Hungary. The first hours were full of singing, laughing, and talking about future adventures. They imagined themselves near the Eiffel Tower, on the small streets of Prague, and on the coast of the Adriatic Sea at the border. The line moved slowly, but they didn't mind. But when they drove to the officer's window, their mood changed. Alex's passport was expired. He was sure it was good for one more month. Panic, tears in Maria's eyes. The officer looked serious. But after 1 hour of explanations, checks, and a lucky situation, a nice shift boss, they finally crossed the border. Maria smiled again. Their adventure started with a problem, but they did it together. Part 2. A night in a strange place. After the border, Alex and Maria decided to drive more to get back the lost time. But their old car friend was not ready for this. In the middle of a highway at night, somewhere in Hungary, the engine made a bad sound and stopped. Around them was only a dark forest and silence. Alex tried to start the car, but nothing. It started to rain. All hotels in the next town were full. They had to sleep in the car. First, it felt like a disaster. But then they put down a blanket, opened a can of peas for a snack, and started to laugh about this crazy situation. With the sound of rain on the roof, they told each other funny stories from their childhood. This unplanned night in their car hotel became one of their most romantic moments. In the morning, a mobile help truck saved them. After fixing the car in Hungary, Alex and Maria drove to Austria. They wanted to see Salzburg, a city with beautiful mountains. But their old car started to make a strange noise again. They found a small garage. The mechanic said the car needed a new part. They had to wait 2 days for it to arrive. They was it. But they used this time to walk around Salzburg. It was not in their plan, but they loved the city. They found a small cheap hotel and ate traditional apple strudel. Sometimes unplanned stops are the best. Finally, the car was fixed. They drove to romantic Venice, Italy. But they had another problem. Their booking in a small hotel was cancelled. The owner said sorry. The room was flooded. All other hotels were very expensive. They didn't know what to do. Then, Maria found a website for a local family renting a room. The family was very nice. The room was small but clean. They had breakfast with the family and learned some Italian words. The problem became a nice cultural experience. In Rome, they wanted to see the Colosseum. They used a map on their phone, but the phone battery died. They were lost in a big city. They asked people for directions, but not everyone spoke English. Finally, a kind ice cream seller drew a map for them on a paper napkin. They followed the map and found the Colosseum. It was even more beautiful than in pictures. That evening, they bought a power bank for their phone. They learned that it's good to have a paper map too. They drove north to Germany. They were very hungry and stopped at a traditional restaurant. The menu was only in German. They saw a word that looked like chicken. They pointed to it. The waiter brought 2 huge plates of liver. They didn't like liver, but they didn't want to be rude. They tried to eat it and laughed. The waiter saw their faces and understood. He smiled and brought them some sausages and potatoes. It was a funny mistake. Now they always use a translation app. The sky was dark grey when they arrived in Prague. Heavy rain started to fall, ruining their plans to explore the beautiful old streets. They felt disappointed as they watched the water from their hotel window. "Our last days in Europe," Maria said sadly. But Alex smiled. "We have umbrellas and good shoes," he said. "Let's try." They walked through the rainy city to the famous Charles Bridge. Surprisingly, there were very few people there. The rain made the ancient stones shine, and the city looked magical and mysterious. They stood on the bridge alone, feeling like they had Prague just for themselves. They found a small, traditional cafe and drank the best hot chocolate of their lives. The rain didn't stop, but they didn't care. They talked for hours, sharing dreams and memories. That evening, they realised that the bad weather gave them a special gift, a quiet, romantic time together that they would never forget. Sometimes, the most beautiful moments come from unexpected changes. The journey home began. They were driving through the green fields of Poland when suddenly a loud bang shook the car. They had a flat tyre. Alex stopped the car on the side of the busy road. He tried to change the wheel, but one bolt was too tight. He couldn't move it. Cars were passing very fast. They felt scared and alone. After 10 minutes, a big Polish man in an old car stopped behind them. He didn't speak English, but he pointed to the tyre and took the tools from Alex's hands. He changed the wheel in just 5 minutes. His hands were strong and knew what to do. When he finished, they tried to give him money for his help. But he smiled and said "Nie. Dicet kui. No, thank you." He just waved and drove away. This act of kindness from a stranger made them believe in the goodness of people. They continued their drive, feeling grateful and safe. They decided to stop for their last night in Europe in Krakow. They found a small, family-run hotel in the old town. In the evening, they went to the main market square. It was full of life, music, and the smell of delicious food. They bought traditional Polish dumplings called pierogi and sat on a bench, watching people. A street musician was playing a beautiful violin melody. Alex took Maria's hand and they danced right there, in the middle of the square, under the stars. They didn't care about anyone else. They talked about all the adventures they had, the problems at the border, the night in the car, the lost phone in Rome, the rainy day in Prague. They realised that every problem made their story more interesting and their love stronger. That night was perfect, a beautiful end to their crazy European tour. The next morning, they started the final part of their trip home. The border crossing was quick and easy this time. They drove through familiar landscapes towards Romania. When they finally saw their town, a warm feeling filled their hearts. They were home. Their old car, which had caused so many problems, had brought them safely back. Their apartment seemed different, smaller but cosier. They unpacked their bags full of dirty clothes, souvenirs, and memories. That evening, they sat on their sofa with a cup of tea and looked at all their photos. They laughed about the liver dinner and the kind farmer. They didn't bring back a perfect vacation story. They brought back a real story about two people who faced problems and never gave up. Their love passed the test, and they knew that this was just the beginning of their many adventures together. Thank you for travelling with Alex and Maria. We hope you enjoyed their story. Please subscribe to our channel for more stories about love and adventure.